Welcome back to another episode, Crusaders. Today we're going to be covering Quarriors with everything all the way through Quartifacts. Enjoy. The object of Quarriors is to score the most points the fastest. In a 4-player game, you're going to want to get to 12 points first. In a 3-player game, you get to 15 first. In a 2-player game, you get to 20 first. Everyone chooses a bag with a matching cube, and then everyone places their cube on the one marker. Or off if you wanted to start and have a true 20 points and earn your points as you go. I don't know if the rules specify. I usually prefer to start off and then actually start earning. But do what you will. Basically, anytime that one of your heroes scores points, you just move this along the track, and that's how you keep track of where you're at. Now, the Quartifacts expansion gave us this new glory tracker that just kind of adds more. So in a 2-player game it's 25 points, 3-player game it's 19, 4-player game it's 15. Now you can use this with or without the quests. The quests do make it a little bit easier to get some glory, and so that's why they've kind of expanded the victory total. But if you just want to play a more intense game without the quests, you can also use this. Quarmageddon refined the rules a little bit, so I'm going to use the Quarmageddon rules. If you do decide to play with the basic game, you can still use the Quarmageddon rules. There's nothing really new except creatures, the refined rules, and maybe this, which can be found on the back of the instructions to print out, so that you can have these references. See, they're just printed on the back of the rules. And incidentally, Quest of the Gladiator adds the locked ability, and they have a new one of these on the back of the card I haven't had a chance to print out yet that just adds a locked area to go with that. But really, if you wanted to just, I've been keeping my locked cards just off to the side of the ready area, or even up here, that way I know which ones are locked. Understanding how the cards and the dice work is 90% of the game. Once you have this down, you're good to go, because the rest of it is outlined on these if you have them right up top, with a couple of exceptions, I guess, if you have the Quest or the Quartifacts expansion. But at any rate, here's how the card looks. Right here is the cost of the dice on the card, which we'll go over later, but that's where you find it. The glory points, if it's a creature and it's successful and it survives through the rounds, that's how many glory points you score to move your thing up the track. Any abilities that are passive on the card, or the dice, I should say, that the dice has all the time. Anything that is activated when a side with an asterisk is rolled, such as that. And the asterisks come in 1, 2, and 3 flavors, so that you can have multiple situations on a card, where say this side has 1 asterisk and this side has 2 asterisks, just for instance. As you can see, it doesn't. And then on the bottom of the card, you're going to see all of the potential for all the 6 sides of the dice, so you kind of know what you're getting into when you're purchasing it, to see how it's going to fit with your strategy when you're building your bag of tricks, I guess. Here we have an example of what a creature looks like, starting with this, which is the level of the creature, moving on to the attack value of the creature, and then moving on to the defense value of the creature. And again, if there was an asterisk present, it'd be over there in that corner. And as you can see, some of the creatures have multiple levels. This is a level 1 that has a 2 attack, 3 defense. It can also become a more powerful level 2 with a 3 attack, 4 defense, and that special ability on the card activated. So that's kind of how the creatures work. If ever a creature becomes demoted, where it's downgraded a level, you simply take it from whatever level it's on, find the side that has the next level, and that's how you do that. Another common thing you're going to see is the quiddity, which is essentially the magic or the mana or the coin, whatever, that you'll use to either purchase the dice or to activate creatures. In order to activate a creature, you do have to pay this cost. The level is how much it costs to activate. So you'll be able to use this strategically to either purchase new and better dice or to throw out creatures that you have rolled into the battlefield. But we're going to cover that in more detail later on. So I've just given an example of what creature cards look like. Another common symbol you're going to want to know about is this locked icon that was introduced in Quest of the Gladiator. The locked icon, if your card comes up locked or your dice comes up locked, it is still considered a creature for all intents and purposes. However, it cannot attack and it cannot block. It can, however, be affected by spells and, I guess, equipment if you're using the Quartifact expansion. So when you're rolling and you come across a lock, of course you'll have your rerolls, which we'll cover in a sec, but if you're done with all your rerolls and it's still a lock, it must be put into your lock zone. A creature in the lock zone can only be removed one of 4 ways. The first 3 ways are considered unlocking it. If it gets unlocked on your turn, it gets moved into your spent pile and then to your used pile as appropriate. If it gets unlocked on an opponent's turn, it goes to the used pile directly. So the first 3 ways are it can be destroyed by a spell, or someone can pay 2 quiddity, yourself included, or any of your opponents, to unlock it and remove it from that locked position, or it can get replaced. Those are the 3 ways where it would go to the spent or the used pile as appropriate. Now another way that this could be removed from the lock is if something causes it to go down a level. In that case, it would go from the locked to the next lowest level and into your ready area with your ready creatures. Now, whenever you roll the lock, it has to go into your locked area, which means if you did have one in your locked area previously, this one would have to replace it. You would have no choice in the matter. Now, if you rolled 2 creatures with the lock icon, you get to choose which one goes there. But it must go there, and you can only ever have one in your locked area at any given time. Now, locked creatures do not go away unless they are unlocked. Unlike other creatures that move through the ready phase and the spent pile and the used pile, these guys are always there unless they get unlocked, and their abilities are always in play as long as they are in play. In the game, there are several types of cards. Next, we'll look at the basic cards. In any game you play, you will want to find these 3 cards and the dice associated with them, because they will be in every single game. No matter what expansions, no matter what anything, you're using these. This one's just the basic one that doesn't cost anything if you want to throw it into your deck or your dice bag, if there are any available on the card. It gives you, as you can see, a lot of 1s with a chance of rolling 2 for your quiddity, or your mana, or your coin, or whatever. This one's a little helper guy that gives you 3 chances at a 1, 1 chance at a reroll where you get to reroll this and something else, and then 2 little pawns that are pretty weak. This one is one that will allow you to either draw 1 dice from your bag and add it to your roll immediately, indicated by the 1 in the middle, or 2, indicated by the 2 in the middle. Of course, it also says it on the card. Now, if you're going to play with the Demon expansion, I don't recall the exact name of that expansion. It was Rise of the Demons. Then you'll want to throw this in there too. But if you're not using any Rise of the Demon cards, you're not going to want to throw this in there because it'll be kind of useless. This only comes into play as a negative effect, which you can either impose upon your enemy or use a special ability that'll give you something special if you pull one of these into your bag. Now, the reason these aren't so special is because, as you can see, they introduce a new value of 0, which means you have a chance of rolling absolutely worthless nothingness. And quite a few chances. And then if you roll this, it's forced upon you to draw 1 more of these and put it into your bag if there are any available on the card. So again, you don't want to throw this in there unless you're going to be using some cards from the expansion. If you do, normally the game calls for just randomizing and throwing random creatures out there. But if you're using this, you're going to want to put some sort of a ratio of the cards with the green booger colored lightning on the edges. That's indicating it's for this expansion, and that way you can easily pick them out of the bunch and decide how many of these you're going to want to use in your game. They also have them in the spell flavor. The Squire is similar to the Assistant. He is introduced in the Quartifacts expansion. You may want to use him if you're using the Quartifacts expansion because he has the chance of gaining an attack and defense while questing to kind of just help you out there. This was also added in the Quartifacts expansion, which adds the bigger dice, which you can see quite a size difference. It's actually a standard 6-sided dice size. And this one's a little different, and instead of having a cost, it has a level, meaning that when you're sending your units on a quest, in order to get the glory on this quest, you need to have at least that much of a level, meaning you can have 2 level 1s, or you can have a level 2, or anything above that, as long as you at least meet this requirement. And then the glory on this is in place of all of the creatures that are on that quest. So you do not get to score glory for the creature's glory plus the quest glory, but just the glory on the quest, because you also get to roll the big dice and get a chance at something super awesome. And then finally we come to the spells. The spells come in 3 different flavors. They have the attachment ones, which you will attach to a creature and they remain in play as long as that creature's in play. We have the reaction ones, which you can play basically on any of your opponent's turns, but not on your turn. And then we have the immediate ones, which you play immediately upon rolling it, if you do not re-roll it. If it ends up being your final roll, you play it immediately. Setup in this game is a snap. Oh, sorry, we're not doing that this time. What you're going to do is you're going to take 4 of the assistants and 8 of the basic quiddity, and you put them in whatever colored bag you've selected for yourself, and that's your starting dice. Then you take the basic cards and you load them up with dice. This one will have all 5 dice, this one will have 2 dice, this one will have no dice at the beginning of the game, but as people cull them, they will end up there. Then you take, from the creature deck, 7 creatures at random, unless you have some sort of method you like to use, or again if you're using the demon expansion, in which case you'll want to bring this into play. But you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You get your 7 random cards in whatever random way you'd like to do it. That's the easiest way I've found. Then you review them to make sure there are no duplicates. In this case, we have 2 versions of this knight. Now each card comes in, I think, 4 different flavors. They all have different abilities, so the card's going to play different depending on which card you use. So since I have 2 of these, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of randomize them, get rid of one, and then draw a new card to replace it. And it looks like that's also already in here, so we'll get rid of that. The second one this time, and then... oh, I didn't shuffle that very well. There we go, there's a new one. So you've got your 7 creatures. You're going to find all of the dice for the creatures and place them on top of the creatures. And you're going to get 3 spell cards using the same technique. 1, 2, probably not shuffled well. 3. And you set them all up in a common area, again with all the dice and everything located on them. Just like this. If you're opting to use the quests, you kind of do the same thing. You choose one of each of the quests completely randomly, and you place them on the board near the other ones with the dice also on top of them. Just like that. The very first thing you do is, if you have any creatures in your ready area, you score them right now. And for every creature that scores, you get to cull a card from your used pile, if you have any. And then you get to complete any quests if you have any creatures over there questing for you. and then move to your draw, roll, and ready dice, which looks like this. You go into your bag, shake it up, get the first 6 dice you can find, and then you roll those. Now in this case I got a bunch of 1s with a re-roll, so I'm going to take the re-roll and re-roll one of my 1s, and now I have a creature that I can choose to summon if I want. Now if I choose to summon the creature, I play its level to the spent pile and move him to the ready area, and then he immediately makes an attack against everything else that's out there. In this case, let's say that I don't choose to do that, because you don't ever have to do that. If I did do that, it would move to the attack phase. If you're not doing an attack phase, you move on to the capture phase, where you get to pay for 1 of the dice in any of these cards that you'd like to capture. I rolled 5, so I can pull anything 5 or less. Now, the basic rules say pull 1, but the advanced rules say you can pull 2 if you'd like. We're going to go with the basic rules. The knight's worth 5. We're going to grab him. He goes to the used pile. The very next step is move all of your dice to your used pile. So I spent 5, so they go to the spent pile. If I had more money, it would be available here. But then at the very end of my turn, everything that I've spent, and any creatures that I chose not to summon, or any spells that I didn't utilize that aren't in the ready area because they're reaction spells, will go into my used pile. And then it goes to the next player's turn. They do the same thing. And then it goes to the next player, so on until it's my turn again, where I roll into my bag and I pull out all the dice I have. In this case, I only have 2 dice left. So what I do is I put my 2 dice there, I get the rest of the dice from my used pile, and I put them back in my bag. I shuffle things up, and then I grab out 4 more dice at random. Look at that, I happened to grab my new dice and those dice. So now we roll them all. Look at that, we've got a creature and we've got a lot of mana. So what we're going to do is, this time we are going to summon a creature and go into an attack phase to kind of show you what that looks like. So the creature goes here, he costs 3, so we're going to take 3. Put it in my spent pile, I still have 3 left, so when it comes to purchasing, I can still purchase something. So let's look at what an attack looks like by pulling in some opponents. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look at my total, which happens to be 2 for my attack value. This guy is a powerhouse blocker, not a very strong attacker. So for the sake of argument, let's say I rolled that, and I have these 2 creatures. So now my total attack value is 8. That means I have 8 attack going against everybody simultaneously. Now I'm attacking them. Whatever they do not do damage to me during my attack phase. When they summon dice, their dice do their attack phase and have the chance of wounding me. But I'm attacking now, putting all of my opponents on the defensive. Now this guy has a defense of 8 and a defense of 2. And I have an attack of 8 coming at them. He may want to score this guy because it's worth 2 points. However, this guy is also worth 2 points. The difference is if he gets attacked again, he may want to have his 8 rather than his 2. Now when you're putting your defenders up, you cannot split the damage. I can't say put 1 here and 7 here. You have to put it all on one creature and then all to the next creature. So for that sake, he is going to actually go ahead and sacrifice this guy for the good of the game. He goes to the used pile and he absorbs the remaining 7, still alive. At the end of my attack phase, he will get his 8 defense back if he gets attacked again. Now moving on to this guy. I have 8 attack coming against 6 defense, which means both of his guys are going to be defeated and move to the used pile. So that's the way the attack phase works. After the attack phase, you can start quests. Now these guys all attacked, so they cannot start any quests. Had they decided not to attack, they could have instead gone on a quest. But they attacked, so we could demonstrate that. So we're also not going to challenge any quests because nobody's out there questing. So during the attack phase, you can either choose to attack with your guys, you can choose to go on a quest with your guys, or you can choose to challenge somebody else's quest by attacking them, which we'll cover in a second. So then, of course, the game continues. I can use my remaining 3 here to buy something. Not much to pick. There's this spell that costs 3, so let's get one of those. Put it right here. That used my 3. And now my turn is over. I move everything to my used pile, except my active guys here that attacked. They're now defenders. So let's say my opponent goes, he plays a creature, I blocked. These are very high blockers, so nothing died. My next opponent goes, same thing, comes around to my turn again. Now I score what's in my ready area. This guy happens to be worth 4 glory, and the knight happens to be worth 2 glory. So I get to move my tracker up a total of 6. So by the end of this turn I would be right there on 6 with my red cube, because I'm a red player. Now when these guys score, they go to the used pile, and then you can immediately cull dice. Culling dice is good because you can get rid of the useless stuff that you're not finding very useful anymore, such as these, which now you have more chances of getting 2s on your creatures, so you're going to maybe want to get rid of these. You cull them by putting 1 for each scoring creature back on the dice, or the card where they came from. And the game just continues like that. Now, instead of attacking, let's say I decided to go on a quest with, let's say with this guy, and maybe I had this guy roll up. So, what I could do for the quest is I come over here, and I declare which quest I'm going to go on. I can do that by looking at the level here. This is a level 3 quest, level 2 quest, a level 1 quest. I happen to have a total level of 4, or 3, because I have my knight, which is a value of 2, and my pawn, which is a value of 1. So I have a level 3. I can go on any of the quests I want. Let's just go for the level 3 quest. Now, if it comes around to my score creatures phase, and I still have enough here to meet the level requirements, then I can instead of scoring my creatures for their points, I can get that much glory instead. And then I get to roll one of these dice and get whatever treasure is indicated by the card. Now with these, you can only ever have 1 at a time, and you get to keep them until you use them. That can be pretty dangerous though, because if someone else comes in and they conquest this, so say you have this, someone else comes in and conquests this successfully, they take this one, someone else comes in and they want to try their hand at this as well. If they do end up surviving and there's no dice on this, they get to choose whoever they want to that's been hoarding the dice and take the dice from them to roll. That's kind of how these work. Now, had I been defeated a little bit, say someone knocked this guy out of the running, and it comes around to my score creatures phase, I only have 2, and that's a level of 3, so I would not be able to score it. He just goes to my used pile. Now let's look at how getting an area challenged. So let's say my opponent wants to try for this that I'm trying for. And what they're going to do is they're going to get their army that they're coming up against me with, and we're going to compare our values. These guys have an attack of 10 and a defense of 10. I have an attack of 3 and a defense of 8. So it does not look good for me at all, because this 4 by himself or the 6 by himself could absorb all of my damage, and then their 10 is going to kill me. So that brings another mechanic into the game. If the attacker defeats any heroes or characters, creatures, whatever, from whoever's on the quest, they get 1 glory for each one they destroy. In this case, he destroyed 2. He gets 2 glory instantly. Then he can choose to take his spot on the quest, or just put these in the used pile because he used them. I don't know why he wouldn't want to take his spot at the quest, unless maybe he only had a level 1 guy left at the end. But that's how that would work out. Another thing to consider, let's say it went backwards. It went the other way around. Let's say I had this guy. Right, let's say I had these guys, and they had these guys, except let's make it a little more even. Let's say it's more like that. So they're going to attack me for 5. I have the defense that's easily going to ward off with that, with my 6. And they're coming at me for 5. That's a level 3, so by himself, he's going to retain that. I can keep him alive. He can absorb all the blows. So I'm going to kill one of their guys because I'm coming at them with 4. And so the guy that I defeated goes to the used pile. Both of my guys are still alive. And that guy was unsuccessful, so he will also go to the used pile. Now I defeated 2 of his guys, but I do not get 2 glory for that because I'm defending myself and I have the chance of getting this glory. Whereas the attacker, even if they decide to move on and take over this quest, they still get the glory for attacking me, and then if they can hold it, they also get that glory as well. So I think that is very thorough on the glory. I don't think there should be any questions left. In fact, that draws us to a stunning conclusion of the game tutorial.